there are two broad ways of getting married in the modern world. I'm not talking about in parts of the world where parents get together and decide how many cows to exchange. In the modern era, there are only two real ways of dating. One is that what I call modern dating. You meet people, you enjoy their company, you want to spend time with them, you become a friend, and if that friendship develops into marriage, everyone would be very happy, but nobody's worrying about that right now. First thing is, do I enjoy their company? Do I like their friendship? And there's a friendship stage before the marriage stage gets spoken about. In traditional dating, in the Jewish community, we may call it shidduch dating. Even though there's a spectrum between how people go about it, they have one thing in common. It's called dating with purpose. In other words, they're marriage-minded. The first question they're asking is not, do I like the look of the person? Not, do I like the sound of the person? Not, would I enjoy the person's company? But is there a potential here to make a marriage out of it? And therefore, that's the entire way it's approached. So you wouldn't meet the person unless you felt the answer was yes. If you met the person and after the first 10 minutes it was clear that there was no way in the world, somehow now there had been a mighty misunderstanding, and you have already committed yourself to living in Israel for the rest of your life, and turns out she is absolutely not planning to move from Canada, then clearly this whole thing is not going to end in marriage. And you could say, well, look, okay, so we're not going to get married because clearly she's absolutely determined to live in Israel and I'm not leaving my country. So, but I think she's really cute. We had a really good time. So we agreed we would just kind of, till she moves to Israel in 3 months' time, we'll just kind of have a friendship. You wouldn't do that if you were shidduch dating. You would not do that if you were marriage-minded, if you were dating with purpose. You would only date the person if you felt it could result in marriage. Once it's clear that it won't, you end it. Similarly, what happens if you're dating and you reach a point where you know this could end in marriage? We need to say all your questions are answered. Lots of things you want to know about the person, and you've had those all satisfactorily settled. You don't date either. You get married because you're only dating to find out if the person's marriage suited. Once the answer is yes, why are you dating? So you stop immediately and you get engaged. So it's about the mentality. Dating is a means to an end, and therefore you also don't do things on dating because they're comfortable. You do them because they're effective. So the most important thing when you're dating is not being yourself, right? I want to be authentic. You want to be authentic, go to an art class, okay? When you go on a date, you're going to build something. You're trying to establish something. Ask yourself, what am I doing here that will contribute towards a successful end? So you may want to say something because you think it's funny, but if it's likely to undermine trust, or it's likely to push him away, or it's likely to alienate him, don't do it. So, but it felt like, how I understand you're not here to express yourself. You're here to achieve a goal. So when I'm talking to professionals, I tell them what we need are more marriages, not more dates. People look at it and say, I got all these people going on dates. I've matched up all these people. I think we need to recognize that this is not anymore the mark of success. Okay? Just like the mark of success is how many people walked into your store, but how many people actually bought something. We're to recognize now dating has become a bit of a trap. It's very easy to go on a date. We now have dating apps. We now have dating websites. We now have a multitude of different matchmakers and different services that will allow you to meet people. There are all these places where you can meet people. There are all these events. But look what happens. You'll see an event, 300, 400 people come to an event, and if you're lucky, 2 or 3 people end up dating beyond a day or two. So what's going on? So we need to recognize that dating begins with the one thing that nobody thinks about, which is a date with themselves. Okay? Do you know what you're doing? Do you understand what's going on? Please understand, if somebody is 19 years old and she's just come out of seminary, or she's, starting off her college degree, and she's met the first or second person, God bless her, right? Why would you want to complicate things? Hopefully she's going to be part of the majority of people who are going to figure it out. Hopefully somebody sensible helping them, somebody they can turn to for advice when they're trying to figure out how to kind of go through the steps, engaging in conversation, all the usual stuff, and hopefully it'll fall into place. If not the first one, it'll be soon enough. Nobody's pressurizing, no one's coming with a stopwatch. But what do we do about people who are going through this rigmarole over and over again and have no idea. I spoke to a young lady, amazing woman, like honestly, so impressive. I'm not sure if it's legal in this country to be that impressive. Like, had everything you could imagine, like so off the charts, brilliant. 30 years old. I asked her, how many men have you dated? She told me 208. How many, I asked her, of those did you say no to? I thought maybe she's getting a lot of rejection. She said she rejected 90%. That's over 180 men over a decade she said no to. Every single one of the men she met, handpicked by some professional, reviewed and scrutinized by her and by her family, and only met them after she was convinced, based upon the picture and based upon the information and a reasonable level of research and recommendations from people she trusted, this was worth a while. How do you get to that? I asked her, how many people told you what you now need is not another person to date? What you need now is to figure yourself out. How many people in over 10 years, all this dating activity? Of course, the answer was 0. How can that be? How is that helping that person that nobody took her aside and said, look, you're amazing. She's so educated. She's so brilliant. She's so talented. It's like ridiculous. For somebody with your genius, how could this be happening? It took me 20 minutes to understand. It's not that difficult, but we've got to start by asking the question, which is, why is this happening? What is it that this person needs to know about herself or about himself that can make all the difference? When asking people to change themselves, we're asking people to be aware and have a little bit of understanding so that when whatever goes on in their life goes on, they can say, I know why that's happening. I know how to handle that.